From gens 1 through 4, the rule for boosting moves was generally no more than +2 stat boosts in a single turn, meaning you can either boost 2 stats by +1 or 1 stat by +2. There were exceptions, but they were truly unique extremes. In GSC, Belly Drum maxed out 1's attack, but at the gigantic cost of half 1's health. Even the mighty Snorlax hesitated before using it, terrifying though it was afterwards. In Gen 1, Amnesia was effectively 2 Calm Minds. Technically, the special stat was just 1 stat though, but it was effectively the original extreme boosting move. Additionally, Ancient Power and Ominous Wind could provide an Omni boost or +1 to every stat, but this was a 10% chance on weak moves with low PP, so this didn't really count. Even Ominous Wind, Togekiss, and its 20% were difficult to pull off. Still, compared to the monstrosities Game Freak began unleashing on us in Generations 5 and later, even Gen 1 Amnesia seems tame. Gone were the days of Dragon Dance versus Swords Dance, Calm Mind versus Nasty Plot. Sure, those moves were still solid, but they were now competing with stronger and stronger alternatives. And today, we're providing an overview of those extreme boosting moves. Boosting moves nowadays have become so busted. You know what? Let's jump on a showdown right now with a hyper offense team. All I have to do is sack and boost, right? Easy peasy. Oh, this phone? This is my Red Magic 9S Pro. I wanted a big boost to my phone too. See what I did there? I can play Showdown on it, but the real appeal of this thing is by far the performance. It is a high-end gaming phone after all. These specs are on par with some gaming laptops that I own. Its screen is even 120Hz, which is insane because these games have never looked smoother, especially compared to my old phone. I have no complaints. It even runs these mobile games just fine on the highest setting, like Pokemon Go, Unite, Masters, and Monster Hunter. And if a game gets too intensive, it just turns on the built-in fans to cool itself. Even emulated games run well on here too, like Radical Red, and even Melee. Melee is playable on here, wow. The possibilities never end with this thing. I can't believe a device this powerful exists as a phone. So if you like what you see, you can use my link in the description below to learn more about the Red Magic 9S Pro, including early access offers. The Red Magic 9S Pro officially drops July 31st. And thank you so much to Red Magic for sponsoring this video. And after all my selections of games, I think I will actually continue to use my broken boosting moves on Showdown. Having a special equivalent to Dragon Dance was always going to be major whenever it appeared, but when Quiver Dance hit the scene, it decided it would also be a Calm Mind. This theoretical special Dragon Dance alone would have made Volcarona a gigantic threat, but the special defense boost, though not the first thing you think of when considering why Volcarona is so destructive, is actually a deceptively significant part of why stopping it is as difficult as it is. It cuts into a significant portion of possible counterplay when so many otherwise strong options for hitting it on the special side don't work, both in terms of giving it setup and in trying to revenge kill it. If it were just special DD without the special defense boost, Volcarona wouldn't be able to set up so easily, as it so often does, against slower Pokemon that would otherwise hit it hard, such as, and it's honestly astonishing that this is a real example of safe Volcarona setup, Rotom Wash's Stab super effective Hydro Pump. Another absurd example, with Quiver Dance, Volt can boost in front of Specs Tapu Lele locked into Psychic. If it can tank that, imagine less powerful attacks that are still generally strong, like Heatran's Magma Storm, another common target for Hidden Power Ground Volcarona. Now, they would still live, as Volcarona's base special defense is quite good, but it would do so a lot less comfortably, making such moves not function as desperation attempts, but more genuine ways to bring it down, as Volcarona would be much easier to finish off after. And in fact, that good special defense is why the Quiver Dance boost goes such a long way, as revenge killing it becomes quite difficult even with something like Gen 5's Rain Boosted Skulls. An extreme yet highly relevant example, whereas it would otherwise need a hold of Passion Berry if it wanted a chance at surviving Scarf Keldeo's Hydro Pump, Volcarona now will naturally do that after a single boost, and is free to run whatever else it likes as its item. In fact, it can still run Passion Berry and take less than half from Hydro Pump at +1, meaning Keldeo doesn't even come close to taking it out, even with chip damage. Even if its Gen 5 and Rain is active, with Passion and Special Defense boost combined, Volcarona will take a maximum of 71%, assuming no bulk investment. Without the special defense boost, even Passion Berry alongside Volcarona's good natural bulk only has a chance to save it against Keldeo's Rain Hydro if Volk is at perfect health. and even then the odds aren't what you'd consider spectacular. Volcarona pulls off a similar trick against something as strong as Ash Greninja's Choice Specs Water Shuriken. These examples are all assuming zero bulk Volcarona too, and it often drops a little speed in order to add a bit, so as to pump these numbers even more in its favor. But this bulk wouldn't be of too much help were it not for Quiver Dance's special defense boost. This is a perfect example of how overwhelming an extreme boosting option can be when cranking up 3 stats. Not only are you making it faster and stronger, you're limiting revenge killing capabilities. Even at +1, it makes a huge difference. Instead of receiving the special equivalent to Dragon Dance, we wound up getting something more, which led us to wonder when we would get the physical version of Quiver Dance, and we finally have it in the form of Hisuian Lilligant's signature move, Victory Dance, which, since it's on the physical side, boosts defense instead. H. Lilligant was quite frightening when it could pair this move with Sleep. It's already a great boosting move, and Sleep providing free turns to use it, or potentially more free turns to use it, is terrifying. This didn't last since Sleep was banned, but H. Lilligant still has potential just through the powerful nature of the boost, but it doesn't quite have the power nor the stab combination to make the most of it in the higher tiers as much as one would like. Still, the move itself is quite excellent, especially because the defense boosting nature of it lends itself beautifully to shrugging off priority, and is sufficient to have lent H. Lilligant the power to get banned from NU. If it's given to a Pokemon better suited to abusing it, there could be a genuine physical counterpart Volcarona running around. Maybe Victini, since it is the victory Pokemon after all. Yeah, Geomancy's got a 2-turn effect, and a reliance on Power Herb means that you pretty much only get 1 shot at it, but when that 1 turn is giving the equivalent of 2 Quiver Dances, well, what better to commit to than to go all in on that Geomancy? Well, it certainly helps that his user is Xerneas, which is an excellent Pokemon even when not using Geomancy, but this move's power and effect is so drastic, it was causing demands for Xerneas' ban from Ubers before that was even a thing, predating Mega Rayquaza. And of course in VGC, it caused Xerneas to dominate an entire restricted season. As if Nazi Plot and Agility in the same turn wasn't so mortifyingly dangerous already on Pokemon of Xerneas' special attack and speed stats, forget outrunning it with Scarfers, and certainly forget withstanding its hits, especially since Fairy Aura provided Stab Moonblast with a built-in Life Orb boost. But the doubled special defense also allowed Xerneas setup opportunities, letting it safely boost in the face of horrifyingly powerful special attackers. All Xerneas needs is 1 turn, and it will get that even in the face of Origin Pulse Primal Kyogre or Overheat Primal Groudon. Geomancy may be Uber's exclusive, but the extremities it forces players into, with the dearth of options to simply quote-unquote play around it, as one might most threats, even in the highest tier, are illustrative of extreme boosting moves as a whole. Not that Pokemon that max out at +2 to stats on a turn can't also be majorly oppressive, but the options become limited a whole lot faster when going past that, and Geomancy gives a total of +6. This would be insane on any Pokemon, but on Xerneas it's just so absurd. And speaking of moves that give a total of +6, don't let the fact that this move drops defenses fool you. It'd be like thinking close combat is less of an incredible tool for offensive Pokemon because it has the same drawback. It seems irritating enough to be a meaningful hindrance on paper, but too often winds up not mattering, as it's not sufficient to prevent the boost from going off. And White Herb is there to offset that if you really want to, though smashers like Cloyster don't need it generally, being able to force a switch or withstand a hit first before boosting, and the effort is well worth it given the doubling of both offenses and speed it provides. Most Shell Smashers are quite flawed, if not outright terrible, which theoretically serve to balance out the utter insanity that is a total of +6 boosting in a single turn, without the help of Power Herb at that. And those boosts include both attacking stats as well as speed, but some of the Shell Smashers were not bad at all, quite decent even. And this is a boosting of such monstrous proportions that it turns these lower tier Pokemon into some of the most destructive beasts around. Something like Gorbis was associated almost exclusively with baton passing Shell Smashers in Gen 5, since the Shell Smashers themselves aren't good Pokemon. It's best to send those boosts to pokes that can actually abuse them. But as it turns out, Shell Smash Gorbis as a 3-attack sweeper in its own right was incredibly frightening, and in fact one of the most brutal counters to rain teams there was, especially when it seemed like it would just be focusing on baton passing. Once baton pass was banned and Gorbis couldn't fake a BP set anymore, Amistar demonstrated its similarly terrifying capabilities. These Pokemon wouldn't come anywhere near OU without Shell Smash, and yet here they were with actual need niches. They paled in comparison to the Gen 5 OE smashing monstrosity that was Cloyster though. It was controversial for years. The way it icicle speared its way through Sash Alakazam, the way it ice sharded the faster Scarf for Latios, the way it abused controversial items from King's Rock to Icicle Gem, but what eventually pushed Cloyster over the edge was the fact that it wound up abusing both of Shell Smash's attacking boosts. For most viable users of the move, Barbarcle, Torterra, Blastoise, and the aforementioned Gorbis and Amistar, Shell Smash was basically Swords Dance or Nazi Plot plus agility. Make no mistake, this was utter insanity, but with Cloyster, it launched itself to a new level when, as opposed to going all out physical as it always had before, it started going mixed. Its boosted Icicle Spears were as scary as ever, but now it was dropping Magnezone and Fortress with boosted Hydro Pump, and even Slowbro and Keldeo with boosted Hidden Power Grass. It completely took advantage of the full absurdity of Shell Smash, which got it banned from Gen 5 OU for its efforts. Veluza's signature move is like Shell Smash mixed with Belly Drum. Instead of lowering both defenses, it loses half its health. This, in conjunction with Sharpness boosted Aqua Cutter, means Veluza is hitting really hard, especially if it terrestrializes water, and it's got respectable enough speed alongside boosted Aqua Jet, so outrunning it or using priority won't always work. Plus, with Citrus Berry, it can minimize the damage it takes while setting up. The problem is that, well, it's Veluza. Average at best bulk means that when you're cutting into your own health to set up, even if it's just 25% after Citrus, you're not going to get very many opportunities. And Veluza would definitely be better off if only it had to worry about its defenses being dropped as opposed to being untiered. Coil is, other than being a great band, the least fitting of the extreme boosting moves. Of all the moves to boost 3 different stats simultaneously, Coil is by far the tamest, because while boosting attack and defense is obviously great, the third stat is accuracy. Don't get us wrong, this isn't bad, it's just not something that comes into play like ever. Or as PU Arbok takes advantage of not being afraid of missing its straight and stab gunk shot, which is great, and we're happy to see Arbok have something good going for it, while Gen 8 Sandaconda enjoyed the high accuracy on the famously maligned Stone Edge in that gen's PU, so that's cool as well, but nothing else really does this. Thus, Coil is quote-unquote extreme, really by technicality, because for all intents and purposes, it's basically bulk up, and even when that accuracy boost does come into play, it's not nearly as impactful as the added power or bulk or speed. Just being bulk up is great, of course. Look at how terrifying Zygarde was with it, but yeah, Coil is practically honorary here. Hail Glow was the original Nasty Plot in Gen 3, but nobody noticed it because it was on Volbeat. Some noticed when Smeargle tried to baton pass it, but this never amounted to anything halfway decent. Then in Gen 4, Hail Glow was given to Manaphy, which was immensely destructive because turns out, giving Nasty Plot to such a well-rounded water type leaves a lot of destruction in its path. Come Gen 5 though, Hail Glow was boosted to give +3 special attack. This gives it a unique place among these other moves. While those previously mentioned have boosted 3 different stats simultaneously, Hail Glow goes all in on one stat, cranking special attack to unprecedented levels. There was a balance to the Swords Dance and Nasty Plot way of things. A +2 boost was practically the same as hitting something twice at +0. This made it reasonable. If you could take 2 hits, you could take the +2 hit. With Tail Glow though, that's out the window, as anything that would have barely hung on against Manaphy at +2 gets bowled over at +3. It got banned in Generation 5 because, well, Permanent Rain made it laughably broken, but it likely wouldn't have been too fun to face without Rain either. In Gen 6, it was massively controversial at several times for how ruthlessly it dissected balance teams with 3 attacks, and Stall was up the creek without a paddle against 2 attacks Rain Dance variants. Manaphy boosted to +6 in 2 turns, and Rain Dance activated Hydration to shrug off Chansey's status while boosting Surf even more. It was nightmarishly strong, even with the nerfs to Surf, Ice Beam, and Hidden Power's base powers. Then Generation 7, with renewed Rain viability and the addition of Waterium Z, further assisted Manaphy on its quest to laugh at water resist, whereas the other boosting moves had the issue of greatly increasing the diversity of the attack. Hail Glow was all about brutalizing everything with power alone. Fun fact, in Gen 9, Manaphy received a pseudo-extreme boosting move, Take Heart, which is Calm Mind combined with Refresh. How fun! The other move to boost +3 in a single stat, Gen 5 also gave us Cotton Guard. This one's a lot less useful though. Simply boosting defense doesn't do much. The one exception was a time where Mega Altara used the move in Oraz to more easily set up Dragon Dances, but this set wound up coming to prominence under the unusual circumstances of a cheating scandal wherein the Cotton Guard Mega Altara user knew their opponent's team, designing it as a perfect counter. Nobody else ever succeeded with it because it was actually terrible. The other use of Cotton Guard is alongside Body press of Double, which is an amazing combination in theory, but seeing as Double is terrible outside of that, it's untiered. Shift Gear is another relatively tame option as far as the extreme boosting moves go. It's basically Dragon Dance, but with +2 speed instead of +1. Not that this isn't potentially game breaking, of course, but it depends on the Pokemon. For example, if Tyranitar had access to it, it'd be insanely threatening, as it's quite easy to outrun at +1 speed. At +2, it's a lot harder. However, Shift Gear's distribution is limited, and indeed its most famous user, Magearna, doesn't even use the attack boost. It just uses it as an agility. It's quite threatening on Revavroom, Toxtricity, and Cling Clang in the lower tiers, which is great, but it's not the OU shattering behemoth you think of when boosting a move is described as extreme. Think of how Shell Smash launched Cloyster into Ubers. Plus, another potential Shift Gear user, Genesect, has other sets it would far rather use in Ubers. Still, Shift Gear is only considered comparatively tame because of who it's given to. Give it to Metagross and watch things drop. Here's a move that doesn't actually get used because it's so weak and difficult to fit into movesets, but the effect is so appealing. Fell Stinger is a bug move that comes in at a paltry 50 base power, but if you manage to KO something with it, you get a +2 boost to your attack. Wait, that's not extreme. That's right, the +2 boost is only in Gen 6. In Gen 7, it's upgraded to a stunning +3, actually pulling this off successfully, especially without incurring some serious cost of dropping something else. It's so immensely challenging that most players rightly don't bother with it, but we have a dream that one day Mega Beedrill will slash through an OU team with the snowball effect of picking off a Mega Latitwin with it or something. Clangorous Soul Blaze is interesting because it provides the Omni boost of an Ominous Wind or Ancient Power, and it does so through a Z move, meaning its use is only one time. It's also unique because as a Dragon type move, it's immune to Fairy, so if Como-O uses the Z as a Fairy switches in, the boost doesn't go off. Still, it's well worth it, because Como-O's Clanging Scales is already a solid offensive move from a great Pokemon, and when it Z's, it hits with a shocking 185 base power that then boosts all its stats by 1. That is already great on offensive Stealth Rock sets, but can really get out of hand when paired with Dragon Dance. The effect of Como-O's Omni Boost combine elements of many of the previous boosting moves. Whether it's on the Stealth Rock or Dragon Dance set, the fact Como-O hits from both sides of the attacking spectrum with its excellent dual stats is fueled beautifully by the boost to both attack and special attack. It's kind of like Work Up in that regard, except it's also boosting speed, making it more difficult to revenge kill, and becoming even more difficult to revenge kill through the boost to both defenses that let it tank hits from the likes of Scarfers alongside its great natural bulk. Generation 8 of course took away Z Crystals, but they didn't take away Como-O's ability to Omni Boost. They just changed the price. Clangorous Soul slashes off 33% of its health, making it a sort of pseudo belly drum, and it isn't an attacking move, but this also has the benefit of not being blocked by Fairy types. This was just fine considering how devastating Omni Boost was for a Pokemon of Como-O's offenses, bulk, and speed. It wound up getting Como-O banned from UU. In fact, both these moves are incredibly powerful, yet serious opportunity cost, and yet the power of summoning an Omni on command remains one of the most terrifying examples of extreme boosting. After all, you are making yourself better in all of your stats, despite the drawbacks. It almost speaks for itself. We've saved the most extreme for last. It's even in the name, and it's hilarious. It's another Z move. But whereas Clangorous Soul was exclusive to the excellent Como-O, this one is exclusive to, Eevee. Well, so much for that, right? Okay, yeah, it's an Omni Boost. Except instead of a +1 across the board, it's +2. Yes, that's absolutely insane. Think about every other move we've mentioned thus far, and this is like all of them put together. You thought Geomancy and Shell Smash were crazy for giving a +6 stat boost? This is giving +10, but it's Eevee. What's it going to do with it? Well, Eevee itself isn't going to do much of anything, even if it got +4 across the board. +5 and up, and maybe we'll see, but still, no. Anyway, Eevee turns its last resort into extreme Evoboost, not for its own use, but its teammates. It baton passes them. Oh yeah, that's not all either. You know where Eevee pulled these baton pass antics? Ubers and VGC, like regional level or higher tournaments. Entire teams were built so that Eevee, this little cut Pokemon, could get the boost and pass off, and it'd be oh so gloriously worth it, because these boosts were seriously absurd even by Uber standards. Wait, +2 in offenses and speed that isn't bad by Uber standards? Was it really worth it? Well, when your passing recipient is Choice Band Power Up Crocodile, with Power Trip being the physical equivalent of Stored Power, yes it is, as it's going to delete pretty much everything, even bulky resists like Xerneas and Magearna. How do you set up Eevee? Oh, you Tailwind with Mew to make it faster. If needed, you set up Gravity or Dual Screen. Either way, afterwards you explode to get Eevee in safely. With Gravity in effect, you get to use an accurate Sing with Eevee. By sleeping the opponent or with screen support, you get to pull Extreme Boost off safely, though sometimes just the double bulk of boost in front of whatever you face will be sufficient. Eevee has set up in front of Mega Mewtwo X before with just Tailwind helping it out. Of course, the more support, the more it can set up against. With Light Screen, it can withstand Primal Kyogre's Origin Pulse. Then you'll be able to pass out in front of anything to your teammate. Espeon to block phasing, as it can keep the chain going with Baton Pass of its own, or straight up threaten to sweep with Stored Power, or you can go right to Crocodile to sweep, or even Xerneas to block Dragon Tail. Oh, the joy of Extreme Evo boosting passing to Xerneas, effectively giving it a Geomancy and an amazing 2 defense boost, so it's unbreakable on the physical side too, and it can still pull off another Geomancy after that. Yeah, or you could pass to Extreme Killer Arceus, which was similarly ridiculous. Either way, Extreme Evoboost was too extreme even for Ubers and resulted in Baton Pass itself getting banned. And that's it. Obviously, some extreme boosting moves are more extreme than others. Perhaps in the future, we'll do a video breaking down the individual history of one of them more in depth. For now, we wanted to give an overview of their history. Let us know your thoughts on the extreme boosting moves, good, bad, it depends, and all the details in between, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And thank you so much to our Platinum tier patrons. Thank you so much to Raven Daytona Ring, Sorazan Croxon, Stoneface Colin, Bingleton, Ray, Daniel Isbeast, Glitcherton, Alex Sabo, Funky, Skylaria, and Jack G for their support of our videos. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.